Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ironworker Gaming channel. I am Ironworker814 and we have another Destiny 2 PvP viewer requested weapon review coming your way today, where we take a look at pros, cons, stats, damage numbers, and how to obtain the weapon. And the weapon we're going to be reviewing today is the Graviton Lance, and this review was requested by Video Games 101. So if at any point during the review you find it useful, helpful, or just enjoyable, hitting the like button really helps this video out. And consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel to see more Destiny 2 weapon reviews similar to this one. But as for the Graviton Lance, I did a review on it a while back, but that was before I really had a good feel of how to properly construct my weapon reviews. And with Graviton Lance being a fairly iconic Destiny 2 weapon, I figured it deserved a second look where I properly put it through its paces. That, and I had a lot of people telling me how good they thought Graviton Lance was in the comments, which made me think like I may have been missing something. So we're gonna take a real solid look at Graviton Lance's performance here in Season of Arrivals, and see if my initial impressions of the gun in 2020 were correct, or figure out if it is actually stronger than I initially gave it credit for. And we'll do that right after we go over how to obtain this weapon and the corresponding catalyst for those who have not done so already. Graviton Lance was introduced into Destiny 2 with the initial batch of exotic weapons. Initially, this gun could be obtained midway through the Red War story campaign, but now it's an RNG world drop or can be purchased from Xur if he happens to be selling it. The catalyst for Graviton was once the reward for ranking up your Dead Orbit faction during the long since removed Faction Rallies event. It is now a random drop from any of the game's core activities. The requirements to activate the catalyst are a shade on the grindy side. You will need to get 500 kills with Graviton and 1000 kills with the collateral damage from the Cosmology perk. If you're looking to complete this quick, do yourself a favor and head to Sorrow's Harbor and partake in the Altar of Sorrows public event. In PvE, Graviton Lance is an absolute trash ad destroying machine. You will string so many Cosmology kills just by popping enemies as they come out of the spawn bubble. It's actually pretty insane. What originally would have taken days to complete now can just be done in an hour or two. And with that covered, let's head into the stats and damage numbers. Graviton Lance is an exotic Void Pulse Rifle firing a 2-round burst and shooting at 257 rounds per minute with 30 rounds in the magazine. On Destiny Tracker, we can see that Graviton Lance has a usage rate of almost 0.3%, ranking it 73rd for most used guns in your quick play game modes. As for the stats, the stability is maxed out and all other categories are well above average when compared to all other pulse rifles regardless of their archetype. Checking in with Light.gg for the hidden stats, we have an aim assist value of 60, a recoil of 65, and a bounce intensity of 35. With a recoil direction that is mainly vertical. The intrinsic trait is Black Hole. The second shot of the burst rips a hole through space-time, doing high damage and recoil with no damage fall off. Graviton Lance's exotic perk is the aforementioned Cosmology. Kills with this weapon cause enemy targets to detonate and spawn void projectiles that track targets. The exotic catalyst that you can get actually improves Graviton Lance in two different ways. First, it adds Hidden Hand to the weapon for better target acquisition. This basically is just boosting your aim assist value. And we also get a nice bump to the range stat. And while Graviton Lance doesn't necessarily need more physical range due to the intrinsic trait, this does help out with overall accuracy and bullet magnetism. For the damage numbers, each bullet from the burst does carry a different damage value with it. The first is much less than the second. And one quick thing to point out is that Graviton Lance's damage values were not increased alongside the buff to high impact pulse rifles. So on a crit, Graviton Lance will do 16 and 58 points of damage for a total of 74 if both bullets land, and then 10 and 36 to the body for a total of 46 points of damage, giving us an optimal time to kill value of 1 second, requiring 3 bursts, where 2 of the initial bullets land as crits, and 3 of the higher damage bullets also land as crits. For the body shot time to kill, we are looking at 1.87 seconds, requiring 5 bursts and 9 shots landed. When the Cosmology perk procs, on a kill you will spawn 2 Void Seeker projectiles, each of them causing 11 points of damage on impact. But you will also do 58 points of blast damage, diminishing based on the secondary target's proximity. If the secondary target happens to die, they will spawn 2 more Void Seeker projectiles and create another explosion. Just something to note, in one instance we did see 85 points of blast damage, and other times both the blast damage and the Void projectiles completely disregarded the nearby target. I don't know how to explain this other than the fact there seems to be some inconsistencies here. For the range, the second shot of the burst obviously has no damage fall off, but the first bullet will see damage fall off starting at 39 meters. But no matter how far out you get, that damage will not dip below 9 meters. So this is actually not enough to affect the optimal time to kill, just something to be aware of. And I think that pretty thoroughly covers everything here, so let's head into the pros. Alright, first off, the complete lack of damage fall off with the second shot of the burst is very nice. Especially since this is the bulk of where Graviton Lance's damage is coming from. So not having to take into account playing within an optimal range is just one less thing you have to worry about in the Crucible. And this also may give you a leg up in gunfights at extended ranges. Also, the extreme stability of the weapon really helps the initial and trailing bullets have very little deviation from each other. The gun will pop up after the second shot releases, but mid-burst there is very little barrel movement. And to help its cause of landing both of these shots, we have a boost in the aim assist and range from the catalyst. Now I played with this gun a good bit without actually having the catalyst unlocked, and I can say that the difference is noticeable. Now I wouldn't necessarily say that it makes Graviton Lance feel more sticky, but shots that are slightly off target tend to land a little more consistently. I did plug in a controller on PC just to kind of try to feel the aim assist of Graviton, and I gotta say, it does add a lot more in that department. If I was just a little more comfortable using a controller on PC, I would say this might be the way to go, but I can imagine that for console players, that aim assist boost feels really strong. And lastly, I gotta say, it is a sight to behold when the Cosmology perk procs in a group of enemy guardians. Any perk that can deal collateral damage in the Crucible is definitely appreciated. But the fact that these void projectiles can lock onto and track enemy players is a great bonus, especially in 6v6 game modes where there tends to be more opportunities for the Cosmology perk to do its thing. But there are some major drawbacks that we have to look at with Graviton Lance, and we'll do that now as we head into the cons. The number one flaw with Graviton Lance is definitely the time to kill values. Both the 1 second optimal time to kill and the 1.8 second body shot time to kill are the very worst in the pulse rifle weapon class. And actually the only weapon archetype in the entire game with a worse body shot time to kill is the high impact scout rifles coming in at 2 seconds. But keep in mind that their optimal time to kill is better by 0.2 of a second. Even with 0 damage fall off on that second bullet, these time to kills can be hard to swallow. They are slow, and they absolutely feel slow when using Graviton in the Crucible. Next, in that specific situation where your target is head glitching at a change in elevation in the map and you basically need to shoot the button off their ball cap to land a crit, that second round of the burst does have a good chance of missing because while there is very little bullet deviation between the two shots, there is some. And I know this is very situational, but it's not terribly uncommon. And with not being able to consistently land that second round of the burst, this is generally an engagement that you're just not gonna win. And in a broader sense, I really just don't like the split bullet damage period. A lot of people suggest aiming for the neck and letting the second shot carry to the head on its own, which is overall great advice. But especially if you're firing on a quickly moving target or using this gun at extended ranges, that second shot of the burst has a greater potential to miss. Especially if you are side strafing or you are swinging your gun around a little bit. As you can see on screen, the bullets basically follow the same exact flight pattern if you are standing completely still. But depending on how much you are moving or how much your gun is moving, bullet A and bullet B can land in very different locations. Also, you are not going to get nearly as tight of a spread if you are firing from the hip. And it is imperative that you land that second bullet because without it you are missing out on a ton of damage. And with the time to kill values being slow as is, missing a shot here and a shot there can really cause your time to kill values to skyrocket even more. Here again, I'd like to draw a parallel to high impact scouts. With these weapons, if you put the crosshairs on the head of a target and pull the trigger, the shot is going to land with full crit damage, clean cut and dry, no questions asked. They basically perform at the same range as Graviton, they require the same mindset in the Crucible, and when you're using them, you can kill in 0.2 of a second faster. Granted, Graviton does have more potential damage output with each trigger pull, but you're giving up some consistency to a certain degree. And for me, being only an above average player in the Crucible, consistency is a hard thing to sacrifice. So for the verdict, and in general, my opinion of Graviton Lance has not changed since my initial review. For everything that Graviton Lance has going for it, it is just handicapped by those outdated time to kills. Now back in year 1 of Destiny 2, this weapon was an absolute monster because of the sandbox that it existed in. Our Guardians moved slower, time to kills across the board were higher, and Graviton Lance was the king of long range weapons because we were forced to use double primaries. The Crucible in general is outrunning Graviton Lance at an alarming rate though. With 0.8 seconds or lower being the norm for time to kills now, this weapon just really has a hard time getting some footing in PvP. Now that's not to say that this weapon is just bad or unusable, but to be effective with it in Season 11, you really need to be in tune with its capabilities and performance. Which is a damn shame because I love this gun. It's just so enjoyable to use. Because of this, I could never outright tell somebody not to use Graviton Lance. But this gun needs help. Hopefully, with Beyond Light, Bungie could take another pass at some of these neglected exotics, and give them a little tap in the right direction. But until that happens, I just don't feel that Graviton Lance is a strong enough weapon to warrant my full backing as a recommended Crucible gun. So as always, if you feel like you got something out of this weapon review, that thumbs up button is there for you to show your support. And consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel and turning on notifications with the bell icon to ensure that you do not miss an upload. Also, feel free to follow Ironworker814 on Twitch or Twitter if you're into that sort of thing. And to contact me, the absolute best way to do so is to comment down below. You guys are the motor that keeps this channel running, and I will always take the time to respond to your thoughts and feedback. And with all that being said, thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out this weapon review. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one.